Hi there, welcome back. There's a billion errors, who cares? Welcome back. I'm going to Canada this week, so I figured I'd show off some new changes to the terrain editor. So, as you can see, we got some fancy terrain. The gimmick is, as always, oh yeah, let's go to the edited version of the world. I now have a separate, actual, runtime version, which is slightly faster. I'll show how that works. But basically, the gimmick of this game, or the gimmick of this terrain editor, I can move this mountain. This is a 4096 by 4096 height map. It's 8 kilometers by 8 kilometers. So pretty big. I can put stuff anywhere that I want. These rivers, they're just paths. So if we did if I grab this, I can move it around, make the whole river different, do whatever I want with it. So today, what I was doing was implementing erosion, because as it turns out, it's hard to paint erosion onto things, even with my fancy layer system. So now I have effects, which are just shaders that are run on top of the entire thing, and I implemented the erosion by Runavision because it was a nice shader. So here's what it looks like without the erosion. You can see it's pretty plain looking, and then with it on, it adds a lot more texture. Honestly, the easy part was implementing this this erosion filter, because it's just his shader, basically. So if we go to the erosion, it's called face cell. Oh, wait. You have to open it in here. So there's some minor changes, basically removing things, integrating it with the compute shader and stuff like that. Not too different. The hard part was actually getting my terrain sampling to be smooth, because I'll show you what the original problem was. If I switch this one to bicubic old, let's see, I need to go here, reload shaders. You can see now it looks like garbage. There's this really bad grain in here, and it turned out this was because my bicubic filter had extremely subtle issues. So if we disable this erosion again, you can't actually see any problems here. It looks basically exactly the same as the new one. So I just switched to a more accurate version of bicubic filtering, which, as it turns out, pretty hard to just find code to do stuff like that. I had to go digging through source code. And I was actually going to try to use the, what is it called? Lanxess sampling. And I almost got it working, but I'll show you the issue, which is that it doesn't work. And I'm not sure why. So I was working on this for like 6 hours, because from everything I've seen, I'm doing it correctly, but it just isn't correct. It's just obviously not correct. And so I was working on this for like 5 hours. I got the actual erosion integrated like really quickly. But yeah, the erosion itself is pretty useful. So I can do things like I can adjust the scale of this, so we could do basically like finer grain erosion if I wanted, which, perhaps a bit too fine here. I'll put it back as what it was, which was like 6. We can do strength, which, yeah, there we go. Put that back at 20, I think it was. Basically another strength variable. And yeah, there's all sorts of parameters. It's basically the exact same algorithm that he developed in his video/blog. Good to see that. And it's just tweaking the numbers to make it work with my thing. It's a bit darker. Did I change something about the shading? Oh, I did. Wait, no, I didn't. I think it changed my ambient occlusion. There's something weird with some of these shaders. Let's go into the game. So yeah, the other thing I've done is I've integrated it into At the Ends of Eras. And to improve performance, yeah, you can see the terrain's weirdly dark. Ah, well. Add a feature, add a bug. Such is life. There we are. So the way that the terrain is rendering is now, you can see that there's some grid lines off in the distance. Actually, what I can do is I can bring this up, Thank you, Godot. Yeah, there's these grid lines over here, and they get finer and finer as we get closer. So that's the classic thing of just like, it's the same mesh, but once it gets further away, 4 tiles is replaced with just 1, and then further away still, 4 are replaced with 1 again, so on and so forth. And it moves with you, so that way, you only render close terrain at full detail. Obvious stuff, but it's very subtle. Like, you can see that as we get further from that terrain, it doesn't turn to like 1 polygon or anything. It's only really noticeable at like super fine terrain, like over here, for example. You can see those, yeah, you can see the like seams starting to form. Or I guess just the polygons starting to get dramatic. And there's still some things to work out, like obviously the fact that the terrain got weirdly dark, that's because the ambient occlusion was disabled because of attributes. But also things like this weird seam here, this is because of the way that the shader decides whether or not something is a ridge or a valley, is by just getting the actual height of the terrain at that point. And I think we can do better than that. I can just figure out if it's actually like, we can just look at the normals and see, like, is it a hill or is it a valley? And just do work according to that. So once I do that, that'll be good. Let's see. And then obviously just adding more stuff to the terrain, because now it's literally 2 hills and 2 rivers, and we can, add some more detail to there, since that's kind of like the whole point of the thing. The rivers are also quite dull right now. Like, it's a very big world. I'm realizing now, 6 by 6 kilometers, probably larger than like a video game needs to be. At least this video game. But I can figure out what I want to do with it. Because yeah, we're just going to be going down this valley for like a minute. But yeah, I am excited to sort of get into more of the like creative side of this. Though admittedly, I always say that and then I like procrastinate. Ugh. Some of this stuff I'm just going to kind of like paste over, since I still have the ability to just like paint onto the terrain. I don't have to rely, I'm not married to the paths, for example. It makes it easy to edit the rivers, but then I don't have that fine-grained control. So yeah, some of these places, yeah, they could do some improvements. But that's basically what the terrain editor is doing right now. How it's looking. It looks pretty cool. Lots of cool stuff to do with it. So I guess that's it for now. Because I'm going to Canada. See you next week.